And hey, Carl, how you doing, mate?
Hey Jason, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Let's jump into this. So, why don't you tell people how this all started for you? How'd you get OP? How did it all kind of begin?
Oh, so this started for me when I was about 21, a long time ago. So back in like 2013, 2012. I played a lot of football, played a lot of soccer my entire life. And I was playing in London and I noticed I was getting like niggling groin pain after a match. I think I was playing a match in like really muddy conditions and I didn't think anything of it. And then it's just like it kept coming back. I kept trying to rest it. It wasn't helping. And then honestly, from that point on, I had about nearly 10 years of kind of struggling on and off with it, not really being able to do things I wanted to do, kind of being in pain, worse and worse, sitting down, standing up until I found the OV clinic. Um,
So, what was it like? Kind of like, so obviously, I have kind of a different take on OP than most people will, and kind of look at it in a different way. What was it kind of trying to get indoctrinated into that when you kind of started everything? So it's just like all these videos, all these things, kind of things being thrown at you. What was it like in terms of you're dealing with OP a certain way for 10 years and then trying to tackle it in a completely different way? What was that like for you?
Honestly, I was really, really impressed when I first got into it. So, look, as I said, I was doing this for 10, I had this for 10 years and I was diligently trying to fix myself for 10 years. So, you know, I'd say I must have gone through at least 12 different physio regimes, I had injections, different physio regimes, all sorts of different things, different experts. And when I started and I saw just how much, I think I said it to you immediately when I got that Excel spreadsheet with all those um, videos, and the fact that you had such a well laid out theory of what was going on, that really to be honest, that was the one that really gave me a good bit of hope because, I was a bit jaded by the time I came to you that, you know, I liked what I was hearing initially, but it was only when I saw those videos that I was like, okay, because it made sense to me. Like
Yeah.
I had actually been struggling with this. The stuff that you were saying, I was like, this does make sense. And then on top of it, the fact that you had all the videos, I was like, this person is really serious about it. And there was two other bits that when you first I love the way that you very early talked about it's not about pain, do not measure by pain movement. It's about your movement. That was really important to me because I was super frustrated for years when I was working with physios and they get me to do, activate a little muscle in my hip or something. And they're like, how's the pain? I'm like, still sore, but you're not even checking in on the exercises. Have I gotten better? Have we ticked something off?
Yeah.
And so when you had that really really resonated with me. And then also I love the intensity that you kind of demanded when we started. That like you have to put in your videos. You can't miss sessions. I was like, yeah, yes. Like I love that. I was like, you know, it was almost like you were saying to me, "Don't waste my time." And I kind of liked that. I felt like it was a bit of a like there was a bit of a proper contract going on. Like you were saying, like I can't help you, I can't fix you, but you're gonna have to work, which was totally different to some experiences. Again, I'm not trying to trash other physios, but it was like, oh, they take my whatever 60 pounds every session for weeks and months, and there was no plan, and like it was just night and day. So actually, rather than being daunted by all the videos and all the demands you had, I was like, fuck, I was like, yes, I like this. This, no pain, no gain.
It's funny, right? Because like I always think it's funny because like yeah, that intensity is just guilt. I just feel guilty when people don't get better. So I'm just like, don't make me feel guilty by not getting better because I'm just gonna feel really bad about this then. But yeah, it's funny, right? I think like I tell people it's like, oh, because like people are like, oh, why do you like your job so much? And it's just like, oh, I like my job because I just organize it in such a way. It's that like, if you want to see me, you have to send me a video already, like, for your assessment, stuff like that. You got to watch these videos beforehand, kind of things. It's like, oh, I just set up in a way so that I just make sure that the people who do this are the kind of people that are like the way that I work. So that it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. You're not going to get to that point where you actually book in with me unless you want to watch a bunch of videos about this. And it's like, oh, all the stuff that I keep saying, like, I'm never going to say, I never say stuff like, oh, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to do stuff like that. I'm always just like, no, this is the problem. I'm like always trying to explain the problem in detail. It's kind of like, oh, if this doesn't resonate with you, well, then you shouldn't book in with me. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like, oh, does it? It's like I'm just stacking the deck to create the best experience possible. And it's just like, oh, because to me, it's like personally, it's like, with my back, it was like, oh, if I can just understand what the hell is going on, well, then I'll fix it myself. I just need to understand like what the hell is broken, right? And it's like,
Right. And obviously that resonated with me, like this idea of like, teach me what's happening. And this
yeah,
is definitely something I'd say that I feel like the very basic techniques that you were like talking about, I still use them for like other stuff. I mean, just the basic stuff like, make sure you have your balance, make sure you're grounded, sorry, that's my dog shaking his ears. Think about where your tension is in your body. Are you using your fascia, or are you, and it's brilliant. It's interesting. Like, yeah, that kind of.
well, it's funny, right? Because like my big thing with that and my hope is like, so yeah, you take the exercises and I try to layer them, right? Like one turns into a more difficult, one turns to a difficult thing. The hope is it's like, it doesn't matter at what point you interact with that pattern. It's like, oh, if you think about the most basic things, it's like you're activating the most complex thing you did with that basic pattern. It's just like, you're just like, it's almost like, to my big thing, it's just like people want to treat this thing like a disease. And it's just like, oh, no, your body's learned bad values. Do you know what I mean? Like if someone lies all the time, they're probably gonna have a bad life. You know what I mean? Like you can't guarantee it, but you're probably gonna have a bad life if all you do is lie constantly, kind of things. And it's like, oh, if you treat people well, it's like, oh, if you move well, like those values may not always be perfect for every situation, but it's like, oh, if you eat well, you're probably going to be a healthy individual. Whereas if you treat OP like a cold and you take antibiotics, you might get better from that cold for a little bit, but then it's just like you're just going to get another disease later on, sort of things. And it's just like,
I think it's an interesting one on that, is because like I don't know, other people who are coming in or not. I came in at a point where I was sure that it was something like this was going to help, not anything else, like not an injection, not surgery. Like I'd already done enough of that, and enough people that I respected were like, your hip is fine. I know you're in pain, but your hip is fine. you
it's,
know and
yeah.
I think I was kind of lucky like that, because then going to you, like, again, I fully believed you. I was like, no, I know that it's something like this that's going to help. It's not, I never had that nagging thing in my mind like, oh no, I just think I need a surgery because like you're saying, oh, I have a cold, as opposed to like I'm doing something silly with my movement.
It's funny that because I'll always try to encourage people, kind of like the thing I'll tell them, because I'll be like, oh no, if you want to run through the program, don't care, run. I was just like, as long as it doesn't get you rehab, because I'm like, you've already done, like, your pain is not because you slipped once and tore it, and then if you slip again and tear it, like, it's like, no, you took 1,000,000 steps that caused this injury, right? You take another 1,000 things, but like the joint's irritated and annoyed because you keep pissing it off, because you keep moving in a way that pisses off. It's like, but it's like, so if you piss it off a little bit more, it's like, it's solid. It's not going to disintegrate in front of you, kind of things. But yeah, I think like all the fear mongering, because whenever you see specialists, the specialist talks about things in such a way that makes you think everything is going to fall apart. There's a point which is like, now it took you years to get here, kind of things. And and then even just the idea, like, with the pain, it's kind of like, oh, if it took you years to get here, the idea that it's going to 100% disappear just like that, like, that's just not going to happen. Like, that's really rare. You need to be either 20 or like really lucky. It's just unrealistic. So it's like, oh, if you can let go of the idea that pain is the only measure for this, and you can trust that your body is strong and can actually handle stuff, it's kind of like your job is to just not take, it's like you've got like a big giant Hummer. If you drive the Hummer into a wall, it will break. But like if you don't, it can pretty much drive through anything and do any terrain. Well, maybe not a Hummer, maybe like a Jeep or something. But like, it can drive on any terrain. It can handle anything if you just treat it right and you get it the right way. And if you've got a Jeep, will it always sound like a Ferrari? No, it's probably gonna like chug a little bit sometimes, and it's probably gonna like things, but it'll go anywhere and it can do anything. It can survive any environment. And it's like, yeah, and I think most people think their bodies are Ferraris, which is kind of like, oh, like one little thing goes wrong and everything will fall apart. And it's like, well, if that happens, it's probably because your Ferrari is, your car, your body's so temperamental, it's acting like a Ferrari. It's not healthy. Like, it needs to get to a point where it's so solid it can handle anything.
And I think that viewpoint was really empowering. And like I really wanted to believe that, and I think that was quite helpful. And just like on that point, I think you had a couple of videos on pain and like you just did the theory behind pain, and that was really that one really resonated with me because for me as well as suffering from OP, because I've been in chronic pain for like so long, and I'm a hypochondriac anyway. That was really important for me because honestly, I think about 30% of my recovery, in as well as like improving my movement patterns, was changing my behavior towards pain. And like that was the first kind of steps when you kind of like describing like, the type of pain receptors. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the way you're talking about the kind of Jeep there, it can sputter, and like, yeah, pain can happen. And you've been taking a million bad steps. I think it was all really useful.
It's funny
Really
because
useful.
I think like for everyone, it's at least 30%. Sometimes it's even more, just because it's like you've had this injury for so long that it's like, oh, it's changed the way you deal with pain now, sort of things. And what's great about like OP, like the research hasn't really improved. Like I've been doing this for like 10 years now. It hasn't really improved. Like, they brought out like that paper came out with the Holmberg protocol, which is, again, I have a video on this kind of bullshit. Like if you got like 15 physios over a bunch of professional football players adjusting every one of their techniques, it's like, I don't know how relevant that is for like, every other normal OP patient kind of things. But outside of that study, there really hasn't been any good papers on OP. There really hasn't been any good progress on it. But pain, oh my God, do they know pain? Like even since we've had what, it's been maybe two years since you've had, like, you finished, 2 or 3 years maybe, I can't even remember.
Shit, it is just about, yeah.
Yeah, it's been like
I
three
can't
years, right?
believe, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then it's like they, even in that period of time, do we know so much more? I know so much more. The research has gotten so much better on pain. They understand as much of that. There's so many better techniques now for dealing with it and stuff like that. There's like, and it just keeps getting better and better. And it's great because the more we learn about pain, the more it empowers people to fix their problems and stuff like that. Because like even
Totally.
even the stuff that I was kind of getting you to talk about and stuff, no one was talking about that stuff back then. And it was always like, when you talk to pain specialists, it was like, you just have to learn how to accept the pain, that kind of things. And it's just like, yeah, kind of, but then you're kind of saying there's nothing you can do about it. Like you just have to learn to live with it. Whereas kind of like, it was like, I was always just like, no, I didn't want to live with my pain, kind of things. Like I wanted to deal with it. It didn't mean I was going to feel perfect, but like I needed to find some other version. At that time, like 3 years ago, the dominant theory was basically you need to learn to come to peace with your pain and accept it, and accept that your life is going to be in pain and that you're going to have to not do certain things, and you're just going to have to make do with your situation. It was basically the dominant theory at that point, and it was horrible.
Yeah, and like honestly, I really want to like hammer home like 3 years ago, and I'd been 10 years in this, I'd been in the depths. That is totally correct. Every Aside from you, where I was getting my help beforehand was either from physios who were mainly telling me I couldn't really recover and that I might need surgery or something, and that, and doing like small little bits. And then otherwise I was seeing like therapists to try and like teach me about like acceptance theory, and
Yeah,
how to deal with pain. And I kind of felt like when I did the OP clinic, it was like totally holistic, where I brought it all together. And it kind of did both, but it was kind of like much more kind of positive, but realistic. Do you know what I mean? It was
yeah,
like again, going back to what you were saying about the Jeep. It's like, you are in pain. Let me explain to you what it's like. Doesn't have to be like this forever, though. You are going to have to like, you know,
yeah.
re kind of jig your relationship with pain. But I'm not saying that, and that's definitely the way it is. And yeah, I don't know. I've definitely become a lot more. I don't know. Once I kind of got over my hip, I think you kind of told this to me actually. Like pain always, for me, my pain migrates around my body. But once I was able to kind of improve my movement patterns with my hip, it was actually really empowering to see that like it wasn't always my hip that was sore,
Yeah.
and then my foot or like my knee, but then I could always kind of
You're
fix it.
just a
And then you
normal
realize
person. Like once you
I'm
get over
just
the
the
age of
person in my mid
25, yeah.
30s playing
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. Once you're over 25, something's hurting all the time. It's just the nature of like being human and having like a desk job and stuff like that. Like, you know, unless you're going to put yourself in bubble wrap between every tennis game or every soccer match, it's like you're going to live life. You're going to sit at a desk, you know, wear, you know, office shoes. You're going to have to like walk around. You're going to have a couple of nights out where you drink too much. It's like, yeah, something's going to niggle. Like, that's just the nature of getting older. But yeah, it's like I'm a normal person now. I have to like, yeah, for me with my back, it's funny. Like, it's like, oh, I sit on a chair, I sit for too long, I get up, my back's stiff. And it's like, oh God. And it's just like, oh, wait, this is not like, that's what happens to normal people. You sit down for 2 hours for dinner and you get up, like those first couple of steps, you're probably going to be a little tight in your back. And then you keep walking and it loosens up and you forget about it and it's fine. It's just like, oh, that's what a normal person does. Like their legs get a bit stiff. They fidget around a bit. That's normal. Like you're now a normal person. You're not looking to make sure that every chair is appropriate, because if you don't sit on the right chair, you're going to be in agony the next day, kind of thing.
100%. And I think that's what I got out of the OP clinic, really, apart from like, you know, really improving my movement with my hip and feeling way better, was that it kind of gave me that confidence to like, you know, have a normal body. And by that I don't mean perfect. You
Yeah.
know, whereas before I was so obsessed, constant hip pain, that, you know, I was definitely in that Ferrari mindset. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, it's just, you know, it's a rugged old machine. It'll do good work as long as I'm nice to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So before we log off, tell people about like a point where you really struggled, like where you kind of got like you would trying to get better and something just really got on you, and how you kind of got through that.
Yeah, I remember. So I think I started around November with you, maybe like mid-November, something like that. I remember in around Christmas, New Year, like that week, it was still during like lockdowns. It was a shitty period. I got like a bit of a flare up because I was like, you was just still doing basic deadlift stuff, and basically, in hindsight, I wasn't releasing. I wasn't kind of just, you know,
Yeah.
trusting my movement. I was kind of using my muscles, and I was getting really sore. And I remember being really down about it. Was really upset. You know, my wife was trying to like help me. How did I get through it? I think honestly, it was just like sticking with the kind of the small bits that we had. You know, you're always kind of giving like little things. I love the fact that I was only ever 2 or 3 days away from video feedback.
Mm.
And honestly, if I was to give anyone advice, it would just be like it's obviously not going to be linear at all. And it's just like try your best to focus on like doing the exercises and doing the listening to your feedback, because it's not about, for me anyway, what really unlocked it for me was that like it wasn't about just like, you know, you're not just like strengthening that, like, oh, once my glute or hamstring or whatever gets like certain like stronger, like I'll be better. It's more like you're gonna figure out something at some point, and that's gonna really help you. I think you say it like, you talk about it like the gym being like your lab.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the way I thought about it. And I thought like that. I think that's I had like a bad week, and then something clicked. It wasn't even that big. I wouldn't say it was like the defining thing, but I was like, aha, okay. You know, I think it was about like, you know, my suction with my kind of with my arch and my deadlift, and I thought like, yeah, that clicked, and then that kind of helped. And I was kind of on the upward trend from there.
It's funny because like you talk about that, like there's this great book, I don't know if you read it, called like Thinking Fast and Slow, and it talks about like the thinking part of your brain and then the like the instinctual part of your brain, and the thinking part of your brain always takes credit for the instinctual part of your brain. And it's funny, right? Because like when people, if you do the program, you send videos to me during the week so that I can give you notes back to tell you and make sure that you're doing things correctly and you're not like falling back into old patterns, so that you're actually changing the things you need to change, right? So Carl sends me a video, right? I send him notes back. I'm saying explicit things like put your bum here, change this here. But in reality, your brain the thinking part of your brain can't do more than one thing at once. So you can think about one thing at once and that's it. Movement involves your entire body. So your ankle, your knee, your hip, your breathing, your lower back, everything. You're doing all these things at once. But you have the impression that you're controlling it, but in reality, you're not. And so I'm trying to like nudge one domino in a direction, being like, hey, can you pop that bum up a little bit higher? But what I'm really hoping is that something just clicks, like there's a light bulb moment. The problem is if you have OP, it's because those things that click don't click and haven't clicked and may never have clicked for years and years and years. And so it's like, oh, if you just keep putting your bum in that position and you're patient, you make sure you don't hurt yourself too much, at some point it just clicks in the same way if you're learning tennis. Like the coach will tell you the same thing over and over again. Then when it clicks, it just feels right. And you'll think you've changed something. You think, well, I finally, like, I turned the wrist up a little bit more. But it was like, no. Your unconscious part of your brain figured out how to turn your wrist up a little bit more as you went around. You knew you were supposed to do that. You were trying to do it, but it put something together in the background. And you're really just the slave serving that instinctual master. But you have the impression that you're in control and you're not. And you're just trying to keep trying and stay in the environment, just trying to stay in the race for long enough that something just clicks in place. And then when you get it, it's like, and you know, people will be like, we'll be like, yeah, now I really get it. And I just have to focus on my glutes. And I'm like, no, don't do that. I'll be like, no, just focus on the feeling. You just felt strong. Like, the less distinctive description they give me, like the happier I am, like, I just felt really solid. I felt suctioned into the ground. I just felt like stable. It's like, oh yeah, cool. These amorphous words that don't really describe exactly. It's like, oh yeah, that's the instinctual part. Something clicked. And it's like, cool. And now also, you don't need to remember all the steps to the exercise. You don't have to remember it. You just have to look for that feeling again. And that part of your brain won't forget it. So it's just like, as long as you're mindful when you do the exercise, and it's just like, hey, you need that stable feeling again. And then it's like, and then what's hard is it's kind of going, say things go wrong, right? After a while and it starts to hurt again, or something's hurting, you're in a flare up. It's like, okay, go back to that exercise and you won't realize that you're not suctioning. You've forgotten it. You've forgotten what that feeling is. And that's why you're back in pain again, except it's not obvious. So then you have to go back and do the methodical things. You have to use that thinking part of your brain to be like, where's my chest? Where's my bum? And then you get your bum back up into the right position again. And then it use that feeling and you get that feeling. And it's like, oh my God, I totally didn't realize I haven't been feeling like this anymore. I've lost that suctioning, except I had no idea that I'd lost it, right? And it's like, it just happens.
I think that's the way I like say it. It's like the program is like a learning process. So like that's why for me it's non-linear. It's not like just like every day, you know, I know you're doing the moving patterns and you're getting your fascia into a certain shape, but you're kind of like, you know, maybe it's like on week 3 you learn something, maybe it's week 5, 6, but then also when you do have a flare up, it's not the end of the world because you haven't forgotten what you've learned. As you said, you maybe just haven't like, you know, go back and practice and build the kind of neural pathways. But
And
yeah,
it's
so
like,
yeah, no, there was for sure. Anyone watching this, there was a time when like it wasn't going well. I was struggling like.
just like, yeah. Well, most people are kind of like, they hate the amount of videos as well. So it's just like, I'm in pain. This asshole is making me watch all these videos. I have to send these videos to him. And it's like, I just want to like kill him. And it's like, and I'm just like, okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You can hate me. It's fine. I'm used to it kind of things. But it's like, if you just get through this though, you just get through it, you feel so much better. Yeah.
Like honestly, again, anyone watching this, like having done like years and years of physio, like this is a fixed amount of time, this program. Just commit to it. Like, you know, I sincerely hope it works for you like it worked for me, but either way, you just need to commit because you know, if you don't do it properly, geez, you'll just be left kind of wondering, do you
Well,
know?
and the thing for me is just kind of like, you know, like I can't fix absolutely everyone. That's not going to happen, right? But it's like, just yeah, find out. And then it's also like, and it's also this kind of idea because like, you know, people will kind of trash on their previous therapists, especially if they get better. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't actually know how much that therapist helped you, right? Like you came into my program at a certain point of your life and you went and you picked up your deadlift and you picked up that exercise quickly. And it's like, well, we don't know if you picked that up quickly because you'd done something previously with them that kind of helped you along the way. Maybe they got you 80% better, 40% better, 30%, like you don't know, but like there's probably something that they did well. And so to me, it's just like, no, just take everyone's goal. Like, so it's like, you come in, do this as hard as you can, learn absolutely everything that you can. You should get 100% better, but maybe you don't, maybe you get 90, maybe you get 70, but who cares? You're way closer now and you don't have to be left wondering. And you took everything that you could from me. And then now you just need another 30%. You know, like you can maybe find that somewhere else kind of thing.
What I really liked about what you did though, Jason, just to like give you props for this, is that you were very transparent about what your theory was. You know what I mean? And there's something, you know, in terms of like just learn it, you're like saying like, this is what I think the theory is to solving this. Do it. Here are the 12, here's the thing. You know, hopefully it'll work for you. But you know, it's very clear. Like this is what you'll have learned. Hopefully by learning it, you'll get better, which I think is really good. This is again why I'd say just stick with it. Even, you know, God, if it doesn't help, at least you'll know what you've tried if you then go to somebody else. You know,
Yeah.
like because that's not always the case. But with this, you can definitely go like, this is
It's
what I learned, this is what I tried.
And to me, it's just basic problem solving, right? Like you've got to like take out all possibilities, eliminate all things. And so for me, it's like you go through this process, it's so intense, you learn so much. You kind of like you get to the end of it and you're still in pain. You'd be like, but I'm moving really well. Like my glutes fire, my feet connect, my things, but I still have this pain. It's like, and that's when I'll be like, people will be like, hey, this could be neuroplastic pain, which is like the pain research is now kind of pointing to more and more. This could be a systemic health issue and stuff like that. But you should be pretty damn confident it's not a movement issue, because like by then you should be moving beautifully. Your like hips should be working great. Your feet should be working things. The likelihood that you need a surgery to fix some structural problem in your body, that's got to be pretty low at this point, because it's kind of like, you know, you're moving so well, things are activating so well, kind of things. And yeah, that's the thing that I just want people to come in. It's just like this idea of being like, you can only control what you can control, right? And so it's just like, if you can do the best you can and improve your movement and get your body working the right way, well, then at the very least, if that doesn't get you to where you need to be, you can know that you have to completely change course. And now at least you're chasing the right problem then, if it is a systemic health issue that you've got and stuff. And usually I can tell along the way. It's just like, I'll be like, your body's behaving very weirdly to like what it normally is. I've seen this 1,000 times now. Like your body behaving really weirdly. What's your diet like? Do you have IBS? Is there something going? Like it's usually pretty clear through the middle. And then like, you know, sometimes now I've got more experience with obviously like, cool, we've got your movement to a certain level and that's pretty decent. Like, you know, you're solid. But I'm like, I think right now at this point of your health, you are better off taking a break right now and actually spending that energy and resources in fixing your gut. Because I think like, you know, you can make your movement better, but your pain is probably not going to get better, because your pain is probably more associated with your inflammation levels that are being affected by your gut and your diet or your stress. You know, you need to go back and, you know, read The Way Out and read these books about pain and go and deal with that and watch my videos on pain. And you need to spend a month just working on that and getting more in control of what this pain experience is to you, because these exercises are going to get more intense. And if your fear is not under control and your anxiety is not under control, the intensity of those exercises, which are trying to mirror the thing you want to do, run, jump, play basketball, play sport, play tennis, whatever you want to do, sort of things. Like you have to make your exercise more intense to mirror those things you want to do. But if your anxiety spikes because of that, and now your systemic pain is increasing because you've got too much systemic tension, it's like, well, you know, like now is a better time for you to spend your energy and resources trying to address that sort of things. But it's kind of like, yeah, like it's usually pretty obvious as well, but it's kind of going, well, at least you can like start to block these things out and address the actual cause of what's creating you at that given moment, sort of things. All right, so if you were going to give anyone just like sort of advice who's thinking about doing this or like, you know, starting this or anything like that, or stuck in the middle of the way, like what would be your like bullet points of advice?
Commit. First of all, just really treat this as like 12 weeks. This is one of the most important things you can be doing over that time. So don't treat this as like something as an aside, like make time for this. I think that would be the main thing. Get your videos in, watch the videos, you know, 12 weeks of proper work. It's going to be worth it one way or another. So that would be my main advice. And then the second is there'll be up and downs, you know, and just keep going, commit.
Awesome. And so just anyone watching this, some people take 12 weeks, some people take longer, some people take less time, just because there'll be people who will watch that and be like, it's 12 weeks.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
So
no,
I'm not even
right.
sure if it was 12 weeks for me. Do you know what I mean? But I just have that in my head.
Yeah. No, I like to think that's a good number to aim for. 3 months. You know what I mean? Like I think maybe that's 14 weeks, 12, but like to get better within that period of time, I think, because so anyone watching this, the quicker you can get better, the more successful and longer it will last. So if you're learning one aspect of your movement patterns, so you're getting your glutes to activate effectively with your feet, and then you connect that with how your core activates, those two things, when you're developing those nerves and that fascia, they will wire together. So they'll always fire together. Whilst if you spread it out more, it's like you'll develop your glutes, you'll develop your core. They won't necessarily fire together, so they won't reinforce each other. So you can go through these periods where one's firing well and the other one isn't firing well, and that can create problems and niggles and issues, and that can make it hard to get through it. So it's kind of this thing of like, yeah, the more intensely you can get better, the more you can just go, okay, I got 3 months here, I got to knock this out, because like, you know, my running season starting after that, I'm not gonna have as much time. Or, you know, my kids are on holidays right now and then I have to get them ready for school every day. It's like, you can knock that out and get that stuff right. It's like, you can just put this behind you. You can just get this sorted and put this behind you and get on with your life and do the things you want to do, sort of things. So yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I think 12 weeks is a good number to aim for, one way or the other. But thank you so much for doing this, man. It's really, really good. And yeah,
no, my pleasure. And like,
yeah.
honestly, I don't want to sound like corny or anything, but like, genuinely, like this whole thing totally, it gave me my athletic identity back, and that was massive for myself. So like, thank you.
No, you're right. Thank you so much.